In this video, we're going to be going through all of the figures you will need to populate the upcoming Vintage Collection Carbon Freezing Chamber and how much they're going to cost. Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, this video is going to be all about the figures that you will need to recreate the scene from the box art of the upcoming Vintage Collection Carbon Freezing playset or diorama. Now, regular viewers of this channel will already know my opinions about the playset in the main, and that I'm pretty underwhelmed by the set, but this video is not going to be about that. It's not going to be like my hit piece on the set. The set is coming out, and I know many people out there will be buying it, so I thought this would be a good idea to talk about the figures that we're going to need to populate it. Ultimately, the thing that disappoints me the most is the fact that an opportunity has been missed to release the figures in what is the Empire Strikes Back's 40th anniversary year. Many long-time collectors will already have most or all of the figures, but many of you won't. So who are the figures, what lines are they from, and how much will it cost you to get them all? And before we get into the first figure on the diorama, if you do happen to like this video, please drop a like down below. It really does help the video and the channel. And of course, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more future Star Wars content. First up is a figure that hasn't had an update since 2004. Now, I'm sure you will agree with me in that Lobot should have been released and updated in the Vintage Collection this year, either as a standard release or as part of the playset. He is one of the original 96 vintage figures, and he had a pretty big part in the movie, so to have to look back to a figure released 16 years ago in the original trilogy collection is a bit of a pain. The sculpt of that figure isn't actually that bad, but he does only have the swivel elbows. You could pick this figure up for around $10 on eBay, or just plump for the vintage Kenner version, which to be honest wouldn't look out of place. Next up we have Lobot's Bossk, which is of course Lando Calrissian, and this is again another figure in desperate need of an update, and it's quite unbelievable he hasn't been released in 2020. Lando has previously been released on a vintage card as part of the Vintage Original Trilogy Collection, or VOTC. Again, 16 years is a long time without an update, and this figure suffers from discoloration on the torso. It tends to go like a greeny colour. The figure was re-released in a Target exclusive 3-pack as part of the Vintage Collection in 2010, but still suffers with the same issues, including the fact that, like Lobot, he only has these swivel elbows. But if you do want to pick this figure up, you may be lucky to get him for around $15 on eBay. Next, let's talk about the Ugnaughts. These are probably going to be the toughest or most expensive figures to get. Both were released in the Legacy collection in 2009, albeit in different style packaging. And first up we have what is commonly known as the Blue Ugnaught for obvious reasons. He comes with a little control deck, and just like the vintage Kenner figure, he also comes with a little white toolbox. In my opinion, this should have been repacked onto a vintage card back and packed in with the playset. Not to have an Ugnaught for this scene just bewilders me. 2009 was a great time for action figures in general, and the quality always shone through. The figures always had plenty of articulation, and the sculpts were very, very good too. Now, the other Ugnaught, known as the Brown Ugnaught, had a slightly different head sculpt and was maybe slightly taller as well. It also came with a control panel and toolbox. Again, the figure has all the articulation you would need and is a must-have to put on the playset. The problem is both of these Ugnaughts command a fair amount of money on the secondary market. I've seen them go for as much as $40 each, and with the playset on the way, I can only see them increasing in value. Next up we have Boba Fett, and essentially this one's going to be a nice and easy one as the figure was reissued only last year. The VC09 Boba Fett does have the correct armour colour that he wears in the Empire Strikes Back, so it's a great choice for this particular scene. It's a great figure too, so no issues there. You should be able to pick him up for pretty close to retail price, and I've got a feeling he'll be available on retail websites like Big Bad Toy Store and Dorkside Toys as more stock comes in. No Bespin diorama would be complete without Bespin Guards, and just like the Ugnaughts, there are two to collect here. Both were released in the Legacy collection, with the first in 2009. These are actually called Cloud City Wing Guards, and this one here also goes by the name of Sergeant Adian. Essentially, he is a Bespin Guard and has been used on the box art of this playset, Now this guy could potentially set you back $30. The other Bespin Guard is a strange alien looking fella called Utris M. Tok and was released in 2010, but was also repacked in the Vintage Collection 3-pack called the Bespin Alliance. Much like the Ugnaughts, I am very surprised one of these at least wasn't repacked into the Vintage Collection. Both have the required detail and articulation, and once again the Bespin Guard is one of the original 96 still missing from the Vintage Collection. Similar to the other Bespin Guard, this figure again will set you back around $30. Next up we have Darth Vader himself, and even though the VC08 Darth Vader isn't the best Vader Hasbro have ever made, it is the one they have used on the box art and is probably the most accurate to the Empire Strikes Back Vader. The figure was reissued last year and is an easy pickup, so you shouldn't really need to pay any more than the retail price. Of course, we also have the Han Solo and the Carbonite block. Now the Carbonite block does in fact come with the playset, I'm led to believe. And obviously if you want the figure, then you're going to have to either get that from the Jabba's Palace playset, or the cheaper option would probably be to get him from the 3.75 inch Black Series line, which is the TIE Fighter Pilot box art. Now, except for the Stormtroopers, who we get one packed in within this set, the only characters left to talk about are Chewbacca and C-3PO. And it's not entirely clear what they have done here. The 3PO is definitely the VC06 3PO, which has only just been released in the repack wave, but there is also a net there which Chewbacca's carrying, and to get one of those you'll need to go back to the 2002 Saga series, but unfortunately the 3PO figure itself is pretty horrific, it's got to be said. Other than that, you could look at the Power of the Force 2 version. Either of these won't set you back much at all. As for the Chewbacca, it looks to me like they have used the figure from the 2015 3.75 inch Black Series, the one with the TIE Fighter Pilot packaging, but to be honest, I think either this one or the Chewbacca from the red and black boxes will be absolutely fine. The New Hope version released in the Vintage Collection with the slick back hair is probably the least accurate of the three. So there you have it. If you don't already own the figures needed to populate the playset, then I hope this video has given you some idea of which figures you will need and how much they are likely to cost. One thing is for sure, without any figures to put on the playset, it's going to look pretty barren. And for me, that is the biggest letdown. And there we have it. That is the figures for the playset. So if you have enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below to let me know that you have enjoyed it. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.